easy for storage, because you have to spend a very long time on the train. It was a very hard time for majority of the immigrants. I have heard a lot of story that people said the journey on the train was an unforgettable nightmare for them because they were on the ship suffering from the seasick for 5 to 20 days. And then when they arrive at Pier 21, another 1 day super intense immigration process. And then once they have permission to stay in Canada, they have to be on the train for another 3 to 7 days. They have to be seated on the hardwood benches. There were nowhere they can lay down to have a good sleep. And you really understand how hard it is when we get this chance to be on the train. So everyone feel free to follow me, to have a seat on the train. I'm not sure if the train have enough seats for everyone, but feel free to be on the train because I want you to have this experience by yourself. If you don't mind to share the seat with somebody else, it would be appreciated.
Do it! Mommy! Chess! Wait, is that chess? No, that is not chess. It's a different type of wait, no, that maybe is
how do you like this train? It's kind of hard. How long you believe you're able to handle to be on this train?
1 second.
1 second. I just wanted to make it clear. This train was built by museum 2 years ago, so it looks much nicer than how the actual train was.
And it's much softer.
There was no cushion on those benches at all before 50s. Alright, we don't have enough space for everyone, so if you don't mind to like share the space with somebody else or have somewhere to stand in the very back, because we're going to spend the last few minutes in here.
I don't want to sit on it.
For all the immigrants, imagine they're here for another 3 to 7 days. They feel like they almost reached their limit. The weather was so cold in Canada compared to where they came from. Many immigrants have never seen snow in their home country. And now they're on the train, they have to share the room with all the crowd of people who came from different cultures, who are speaking different languages. I've heard stories that when people are on the train, they're not able to sleep. So after a few days of sitting on those benches, their back really, really hurt. And there was a sharing stove you can cook for your family members. It's a giant-sized stove that you put like wood and stuff in there. So after like few days of cooking, smoke is everywhere in this area, and you have nowhere to take a shower since there was no washing facility at all for the next 3 to 7 days. So people feel really, really suffering, and I can answer your question later after we finish the tour. I wanted to share the story of how they feel when they're on the train. They have so much concern about what they are going to do and what is going to happen. Because the first challenge is the language barrier. As I mentioned before, not many immigrants were speaking English when they arrived in Canada. And they have to figure how to send their children to school because they're not familiar with the education systems. And they have to learn a second language when they're probably in their 40s and 50s. And I have heard many stories how people feel scared when they get sick and they have to go see doctors. They cannot even explain what symptoms they have, and they don't understand what doctors ask them to do with all those machines. It takes years and years for people to really feel belong in this country. Some people run back to their country because they don't really think this is a life they're looking for. For the majority of immigrants, they decided to stay in Canada. Some of them have no home to return because their home was destroyed in the wartime. And for the rest of people, it was their decision to stay in Canada because they believe they made the right decision to come to the new land. They believe they can overcome all of these and create a better life for their family members and achieve their Canadian dreams. As I mentioned, it takes years and a few decades for them to really feel in that way. But as you can see right now, majority of people, they did it. They made this happen. They contributed to this country, and they created Canada as one of the best countries around the world during the past 400 years, a really short period of time. And Canada now is such a wonderful country and keep welcoming more and more immigrants from all over the world. And those more and more immigrants, including myself as well, I can share some of my personal stories with you. I was born and raised in China, and some of my family members moved to the UK, so I finished my education there. I worked there for 2 years until I made a decision of coming to Canada because I was always looking for a more diverse society, and I was heard that Canada is a place for everyone. Of course, it was a very hard decision to make if you have any connections with immigration, your family members, your ancestors. If you heard a story or experience by yourself, you know you have to say goodbye to your family members, your friends, everything you're familiar to, your career, and you have to start from zero. And you barely know about this new place. You probably searched or heard from someone else. I searched on Google, but Google didn't provide me much about the city of Halifax. It was many years ago, and that time I searched on Google to see if there's my favorite brand Topshop in Halifax, and I found, oh, there's no Topshop in Halifax. So I decided to pack all my little dresses in my suitcase, including this one. I was thinking, okay, when I arrive in Halifax, I'm going to be the fashion queen in the city. But I didn't really know Canada was much colder than what I expected, even though Halifax was the second warmest place in the country. I found out there was not much occasions to wear all the dresses that I brought from the UK. I have to spend my first month's salary to purchase North Face, the Columbia, to make myself warm enough. And this is the first difficulties that I was facing. And of course, there are many of the others for the first few months when I arrived in Canada. If I tell you the first second that I landed in Canada, I love this country so much, you probably wouldn't believe me. Because in order to love a country and decide to stay in the country, there's something more you have to discover. You have to be with their people, spend more time, discover their culture, and eventually you can tell if Canada is the right place for you. And I was accepted by the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21 as my first job in Canada, and I worked years until right now. And after all those years of working experience in Canada, now I can really tell you that I have amazing colleagues that they help me to adapt to the Canadian culture. I met wonderful people in my life, and I get married with my husband 2 months ago, and he is also an immigrant. Thank you. And he's also an immigrant who came to Canada 15 years ago, and he feels the same as how I feel about this